We're at the Power Station of Art, the site of the 14th Shanghai Biennale with the title Cosmos Cinema. I will be taking you on a tour of this amazing exhibition today. My name is James Miller. I'm a professor of humanities at Duke Kunshan University. Now, I'm not an art expert, but I am very interested in the themes of the show today. And joining me on this tour, you will learn about many of the fascinating objects that are on display here, as well as learning about the way that the curators have put this amazing show together. So join with me on this tour. The theme of this year's Shanghai Biennale is Cosmos Cinema. Cosmos means the sky, the planets, the universe in which we live. And cinema is the form in which this exhibition takes place. We're standing here in the entrance to the exhibition. It's as though the film that we're about to watch is about to start. And in this amazing hall here, we have 3 prototypes of satellites, things that have been sent into space and come back. And I want to talk a little bit about the idea of cosmos. What does the word cosmos mean? I think in ancient societies, people looked to the heavens, and what they saw in the heavens was predictability, regularity. The sun always rises in the east and sets in the west. The moon follows its pattern of 29-day cycle. When life on Earth was unpredictable, chaotic, unstable, people looked to the heavens for some sign of predictability and regularity. And so cosmos means not just the heavens or the sky or the universe that we live in. It means order, predictability, stability. But that isn't always the case. In ancient times, as in now, there are rare phenomena that happen in the sky. There are eclipses. And nowadays, with mathematics and science, we know that eclipses, these rare phenomena that happen in the sky, they actually happen according to predictable means. But in the ancient world, this wasn't the case. People did not know that eclipses, comets, and meteors were the result of predictable or calculable formula. So when these rare things happened in the sky, this was a source of great anxiety for people in ancient times. So although the cosmos, in principle, signifies something that is regular and predictable and stable, this isn't always the case. And this introduces a small element of danger or uncertainty when we think about the universe that we live in. In the world today, we have all of the science and mathematics that enables us to see and understand what happens in the world, in the sky around us and in the heavens. But there's something that has changed. And what has changed is that we ourselves, we human beings, are now putting things into space. The space, the universe, the cosmos isn't just something that has been created for us or given to us. It's something that we ourselves are shaping and changing. And one of the ways that we do this is by putting satellites into space. And when you look up into the night sky today, maybe you're not sure if what you're seeing is a planet or a heavenly body or an asteroid, or maybe it's something man-made. So this cosmos world, this heavenly world that we live in, it's not quite as perfect or as stable or as unchanging as we might imagine. And this introduces an element of tension or uncertainty or unpredictability. And this is what we're going to discover more and more on as we go on this exhibition. You may have heard of Ray and Charles Eames as America's great furniture makers, part of the mid-century modern tradition. But in this installation, we're seeing a video that they made that is a sort of telescopic view of the cosmos itself, telescoping out from the Earth into the heavens and back again. And I'm very much interested in this piece because one thing it addresses is the scale in which we see the world around us. We can look at something through a microscope, something very tiny, And we can also use telescopes to see things far off. And one of the things that this brings to mind is, what is the difference when we look at the world in some enormous scale, in a macro scale, and what is the difference when we look at something in a kind of a micro scale as well? And one of the things that I think all civilizations have done across the world is to try and observe patterns, whether in the large scale world or in the small scale world. You could think of spiral nebulas or spiral galaxies, and then you could look at eddies in water circling around, and you can see it's the same kind of pattern that's created in both of these cases. And this suggests that when we look at the world on some enormous scale, or when we look at it at a small scale, maybe there are similar kinds of patterns that we can observe, whether we look at the macro scale, at the micro scale. And this idea of some kind of correspondence or resonance between the universe as a whole and human beings or human societies or life here on Earth, some kind of correspondence or resonance, was a very powerful idea in Chinese intellectual history. We can call this a microcosm, macrocosm correspondence. And as we'll see later on in the exhibition, when we think about the cosmos, we're not just thinking about the sky out there, we're thinking about people as well, human beings, human bodies in relation to this world around us. And that's one of the themes that we're going to explore later on in our tour. This stunning piece of brass here is designed as a kind of musical instrument, and it gives us the sense that the cosmos is not just about space and place and time, it's also about sound. And when we think back to the early stories about where did the universe come from, in many mythologies across the world, the beginning of the universe comes from a sound. In Hindu traditions, we can think of the sound Om, which is understood as being the basic resonance or vibration of the cosmos. In the Hebrew Bible, the world is created into existence when God speaks. Let there be light, he says. And it's sound in these traditions that we can say lies at the heart of our universe. So when we think about the sky, normally we think, if we look up at the night sky, we think, oh, it's very silent. But maybe think about it in a different way. Think about the night sky, think about the universe all around us as a series not just of lights, but of pulsing sounds, things that resonate with us. And I think that this idea of the cosmos, not just as a space or a time or a place or something to see, but something to hear and something fundamentally that resonates with us, I think is a very profound idea that is also contained in this exhibition today. One of the greatest mysteries that all of us live with is whether we are alone in this universe. Are there life forms beyond our solar system, beyond our galaxy? Have aliens come to Earth and visited us? This has been a lifelong mystery, not just a lifelong, it's a human mystery that none of us know the answer to. And it's very appropriate that this film behind me directly addresses the impact of imagining that there are aliens or maybe not aliens who are visiting or not visiting us here on Earth has to people. I think that one of the things that this shows is that this relationship between us human beings on the Earth and the vast immensity of space outside of us is not always a clear-cut division. Maybe there are things coming from space, just as we send satellites or people to the moon or maybe to Mars in the future. This gap between the world outside and here on Earth maybe is not a clear cut. Maybe there are things coming to us from outside, and just as we are putting things out there into space. as we develop our technology, as we grow as a species, maybe this kind of intercommunication between the space beyond and we human beings on Earth will become more and more frequent. This is a kind of great mystery that we live with as human beings, and one that has been a very powerful part of mythology in human cultures, and even in our modern world continues to be a fascinating question that grips people. Are we alone in the universe? So far, we've looked at some pieces that think about the relationship between human beings and the cosmos in fairly abstract or philosophical ways. But here is a piece that looks at it in a very deeply personal and intimate way. Now, in English, we know that the word heaven means something a place where you go after you have died. And heaven is not just a space up there in the sky, it's also a liminal moment. It's an entry into something like the afterlife, a place where we go when we die. So thinking about the cosmos or about the heavens also invites us to think about death. Death as a liminal moment, a moment of crossing over into another kind of existence. And the video piece behind me by a Taiwanese artist was born out of her own experiences of the death of her mother, and this inspired her to reflect on this post-death as a process of transition and how this relates to our mythology, our ideas of heaven and space, and some other kind of world that we can imagine. Can you imagine another kind of world that you might go to when you die? Where is that world? Is it here on Earth? Is it under the ground? Is it up there in space? This is one of the deep questions of human mythology and religion that this piece engages. I'm standing by this amazing exhibition of 64 prints by the Belgian artist Michel Serfort. Why 64? This is based on the Chinese concept of the I Ching, and we can see an element of this here. The I Ching suggests that all of the changes in the universe are basically composed of the interactions of yin and yang, and out of these two forces or complementary principles interacting with each other, all of the changes that we have in the world around us emerge. And Michel Serfort was very interested in Chinese culture, Chinese tradition, and he studied the I Ching, and what he realized was that everything can ultimately be boiled down to or reduced to this interaction of these two things. And we can see these two things looking at the lines of the I Ching in all of these paintings. We can see also that these prints are monochromatic. Everything is ultimately boiled down into black and white. And in this image here, we have two basic images, the circle and the square. And the circle and the square were fundamental concepts of ancient Chinese cosmology. In China, the Earth was imagined as a square divided into nine units, a 3x3 square. And when people looked up into the sky, they imagined this as a circle, or if you like, a sort of umbrella draped over the Earth. And as the planets and the stars rotated in the sky above us, they imagined a rotating circular canopy above us here on the ground today. This suggests that the heavenly world and the human world are not completely separate from each other. They're both emanations of or expressions of this fundamental interchange of yin and yang, positive and negative forces that produce all of the changes that we have in the universe around us. One of the most important movements in 20th century art, of course, in the West was abstraction. Abstraction asks the question, what can we reduce things to in their fundamental simplicity? And Michel Serfort answers this question with the yin and yang. Everything in its ultimate simplicity can be reduced to the interaction of these two fundamental aspects of life. I'm sure you noticed that the first few rooms that we went into were dark, shrouded in darkness. And this was the prequel, if you like, the opening before our actual journey in the cinematic world begins. And here we are at the entrance, the beginning of our movie, the beginning of our own Cosmos cinema. Immediately we see the light here is very bright. We've moved into another world, and our journey into the cinematic portion of our experience of Cosmos cinema begins here. This is one of the most stunning and complex and intricate pieces in this exhibition by Kidlat Tahimik, a contemporary Filipino artist. To be honest, I'm not sure if anybody can really explain this, but let me try and tell you some of the things that I think about this. It's a piece that's in two halves, and when you look at one side, it tells a certain kind of story, and when you look at the other side, it tells a different kind of story. And one of the things that it tries to tell us is that as we have globalized the world, as we have spread science and technology through the world, this is one story that we tell ourselves about how the world has developed over the past 300 or 400 years. But there's also another story that goes along with that. That's a story of colonization, of slavery, of the oppression of people. And these two stories, one, the story of reason, progress and science spreading across the world, is also the same story as the story of conquest and slavery. And these two realities of the world that we live in today point to the very kind of fracture in our existence today in the world. We live in two different worlds at the same time. And to me, this is one of the things I think that this piece says to me. Can we make a transition from one world to another? Can we bring these two worlds together? I don't know, but this suggests that our world is divided, it's fractured, but maybe there's a way to see both parts in relation to each other. We're exploring the theme of the cosmos and its connection to our lives here on the earth today. And one important element of this deep connection in Chinese culture is the relation to our ancestors. And this piece behind me by Heidi Lau, an American Chinese artist, evokes the materials used in funerals by Taoist priests and evokes a connection to our own ancestors. When we think about the cosmos, it's not just the universe or the space up there around us, it's also our past. It's the past that has made its way here to the present and continues into the future. And if we think about this cosmos as being an orientation to the world, the fundamental orientation provided to us in Chinese culture is through our parents, through our ancestors. It's a genetic or a genealogical orientation given to us from the past by our ancestors. And this piece here, using the elements from funerary ritual implements, evokes this deep sense of connection that we have to all of those things that have gone before us. I grew up in the northwest of England, close to the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. And when I was growing up, I was surrounded by, if you like, the remnants of that Industrial Revolution in the form of cotton mills. Cotton was made in America in the plantations, brought to England by ship, transported up the canals and woven into fabric. And this idea of a fabric, something that connects us together, is one of the key themes of Harayan's film here behind me. It's not set in England, it's set in southern China, about the garment industry that powered the development of the economy of southern China. And what this suggests to me is the idea of connection or thread or fabric, that our cosmos is something that's woven, that's something that connects us together. And this connection is not a metaphysical or a spiritual connection, it's also a fabric connection. It's something that we physically make, it's something that we make with our labor, it's something that connects us. And cotton is one of those things that is transported all over the world, woven in different places, and makes the threads that we wear. Fabrication is the fundamental essence of this cosmic connection that we have with each other in the world and also with the world around us. It's materialized in fibers. And this suggests to me that one of the basic ways to think about our place in the world is through fiber. We're connected through fiber. Maybe in the modern world it's through fiber optic cables that link our internet networks all over the world. But it's also material cotton fiber, things that grow in the ground, that we make with our hands, that are transported and that connect us today. Everybody wears clothes. Everybody is connected through the fiber, not just the Ethernet fiber, but the physical fiber of cotton and wool that grow in the ground and that we use to connect ourselves and to protect ourselves from the sun and to give us clothing. I love this piece. I'm a scholar of religion and mythology, and I think one of the basic cosmological questions that we can ask ourselves is, what is the shape of the universe? What is the shape of space? What is the shape even of time? And this piece suggests that the fundamental picture that we have of time and space is really that of a spiral. And a spiral is something that you're going forwards through it, but you're also returning to the place where you started. It's like an involution. You're going round and round and back to the beginning again. And this idea of birth, rebirth, coming into the world, going through the world, coming out again and starting again is one of the fundamental mythic themes that we have in human civilization. And this image to me is very beautifully created, but it also has a kind of profound message to us. Are we going forwards? Yes, but we're also going backwards as well. We're moving in a circle, in a spiral, and hopefully we get to something new, but maybe we just start again. And this idea of a kind of cyclical time is one that's a very powerful idea in many cultures and civilizations in the world. It's very different from our modern idea that we're making a sort of linear step-by-step progress through the world. But maybe we're not. As we go forwards, maybe we're also going backwards. So what is cosmos? One of the things that I think we've learned so far in this exhibition is that cosmos is not about something out there, it's also about connection. And whether it's connection through threads, as we saw earlier, or whether it's about the things that connect our body. And I was very intrigued by this Korean piece here, which depicts a human body. And how does it depict it? It depicts it as a network, as a series of connections. And one of the profound ideas that we have in many cosmologies in East Asia is that the patterns of things in the heavens, in the stars, is also replicated in the patterns of things in our own body. And here's an image that shows this in a kind of modern way as a diagram, if you like, a wiring diagram of a human being, or maybe a kind of human robot. And what we see here emphasized is all of the things, the lines that connect us. So what is cosmos? It's connectivity, it's tissue, it's fiber, it's sinew, it's blood, it's things flowing in our bodies. That is what it means to be a cosmic being. This piece here draws on the Islamic tradition of art and architecture. And in the Islamic art world, depictions of human beings is generally seen as being forbidden. So how do you depict connectivity? How do you depict cosmos? Here we can see it's depicted through reflection. When this piece here, built out of shiny pieces like mirrors, suggests that when we look at something in the world, we can see a connection to something else. We can see a reflection of something else. And this is, I think, an amazing idea to think about the whole world around us. Things are reflections of other things. And this idea here we have expressed in an Islamic idiom also appears in other traditions as well. In the Buddhist tradition, there's the idea of the cosmos made up of a net. And at each node of the net, there's a jewel, like a shining diamond, so that no matter where you look, you see everything else reflected in that. I think this is a profound idea that we have in the cosmos, and one that celebrates our fundamental connectivity with everything in the world. We continue our theme of connection and connectivity here in this room that contains amazing photographs of paintings, photographs of caves in China. The word for cave in Chinese is dong, and this is in a close homophone of another word in Chinese, tong, which means to connect. And so when we think of a cave in traditional Chinese mythology and religion, it's not a sort of empty space that you go into. It's a portal, it's an opening to another world. In Chinese mythology, there's an idea of 36 blessed places, essentially of Fudi. These are deemed to be areas of outstanding natural beauty that form a kind of interlaced network of spaces that are thought to be conducive to meditation and enlightenment and transformation. Caves play an important part in Chinese religious mythology. And so when we think of a cave, don't think of it as a sort of a black space. Think of it as an opening, a connection to something else, something that leads you into another world, another dimension. Caves are places of connection. I'm standing in front of these designs by Russian textile designer Anna Andreeva. They were inspired by her inspiration from Yuri Gagarin, the first Russian cosmonaut. And these come from a time when we imagine that our exploration of space is something supremely positive. It's something that gives us beautiful patterns, it gives us colors, it gives us a regularity, and it gives us a kind of design and a feeling about the world of its stability, of its order, but also of its beauty as well. And I think this imagination of our exploration of space as something positive, something utopian, something like we're creating a better, a brighter, a more orderly future is something that I found very profoundly expressed in these works here. But as we will see later on in the exhibition, our exploration of space, our imagination of the future is not always bound up with this very positive light. Sometimes we create these dystopias, imaginations of a future that has somehow gone wrong. So let's go and look at some of those now. Guizhou province in southwest China is one of the centers of China's space exploration industry today. It's home of the 500 meter spherical telescope, which is one of the largest telescopes in the world today. It's also fitting that Guizhou is also the backdrop, and the Guizhou's capital city here, Guiyang, is the backdrop to this dystopian film set in a taxi journey by two people lost in the sort of futuristic, hypermodern Guiyang. It suggests to us that just in the place where we're trying to understand what lies at the origin of our universe, this is also the place where a dystopian future is being enacted. On the one hand, we're learning more and more about the origins of the cosmos, about our place in the world. At the same time, we're becoming more and more lost here in our journey on Earth. I'm standing in front of an amazing puppet installation by contemporary Chinese artist Zhou Xiaohu called Ship of Fools. It's also accompanied by a video, The Garden of Earthly Delights, making reference to the famous painting by Hieronymus Bosch. But the themes in this work here and also in the film draw a lot from Chinese culture and religion, especially the religion of Taoism, which tells the story of 8 immortals. Now, what's an immortal? An immortal is a human being who has somehow transcended the world, transformed into something else. It gives us an idea that we're not necessarily fixed creatures, we're things that are capable of being transformed into other kinds of creatures. And for me, this is symbolized in the sort of hybrid nature of these creatures here. I think the puppetry is also a kind of an interesting idea as well, because one of the themes expressed in Taoist literature is that we ordinary people are somehow not fully in control of ourselves. They depict human beings as a sort of puppets, like skeletons on puppets. We think that we're in control of our own lives, but actually we're living in a sort of zombie-like, unenlightened state. We're not really fully present to ourselves. But Taoism also contains this idea that their world it contains infinite possibilities for transformation. We can animate ourselves, we can transform, we can become immortal beings. Animals can become humans, humans can transform as well. And this theme of the continuing transformation of the cosmos underlies Taoist philosophy. It suggests the world is a world full of transformative possibility. I find it to be a very optimistic idea. No matter what state you find the world is in, there's something that can be changed, something that can be transformed. And here, whether you think about this as something that's a sort of silly or humorous, I just think about it in a kind of very fun and positive kind of way. I love this. If you like, it's a kind of map of the world by a Brazilian artist conceiving all of the continents of our land made out of latex. And actually, I've been to this exhibition several times, and every time I come, it's changed slightly. And this gives us the sense that the world that we imagine to be fixed and stable perhaps isn't as fixed and stable as we know it to be. Of course, we know that the continents have formed and shifted over the millions of years that they have come into existence. But it's not something that we normally think about, and it's an ultimate reminder of this sense of the cosmos, not just as a fixed entity, but as something that is always changing. Maybe we can see rapid change around us in our world today. Maybe we can see very slow change in this transformation of these latex continents here. For me, this is the theme that really sums up this entire exhibition as a whole. Cosmos Cinema, it's about how do we human beings see the world. We human beings live here together on this earth. We're surrounded by the beauty of the landscape around us and by the immensity of space all around us. But fundamentally, what this exhibition talks to me about is connectivity, the fiber, the tissue, the connection that all of us have with each other. We look up to the heavens, we're all the same, all of us in the planet, looking up together. This is what this exhibition is about for me: connectivity, transformation, being together in this world. I think it's an amazing expression of our human capacity to feel connection, even though we're surrounded by the vast immensity of space. It's been an amazing privilege to walk through this exhibition. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, and I hope you feel this sense of deep connection in the end. Thank you very much.